welcome to Love in the Time of Hydra, the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. 10th anniversary podcast. If you are listening to us live, you're a little early, but if you were listening in podcast form, it is November 18th. And I'm going to tell you what was going on in the world 10 years ago today in 2014. For the second week in a row, Shake It Off by Taylor Swift was the #1 song. Will she beat Meghan Trainor's streak? We'll find out. Oh, a little movie called Interstellar was the top earner at the domestic box office, and Little Big Planet 3 was released on both PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4 in North America. Jamaica won the 2014 Caribbean Cup, and 80-year-old Charles Manson was reportedly granted a marriage license with his 26-year-old girlfriend. I wonder how it's going to turn out. I actually read about what did happen there. It's just insane. Loki star Owen Wilson turned 46, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s own Ming-Na Wen was 2 days away from turning 52, which means it's almost Ming's 62nd birthday. No 62-year-old has ever looked better than Ming-Na Wen. It's crazy. But the most important thing that happened on November 18th, 10 years ago, was the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. episode, The Things We Bury, aired on ABC at 9/8 Central. Hello, I'm Jamie Jarek, and I'm here with my co-host, boyfriend, and level 2 Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fan, Tony Poletto. Hi, Tony.
Hi, it's me, Tony Poletto. Thank you guys for being here listening to the pod, whether it's live or later. Happy to have you, and let's rock and roll.
Yeah, today we are joined by a longtime pal of mine. You know him from Frasier. You know him from Moonstruck. I'm just kidding. He's a brilliantly funny comedian. I used to play on stage with him all the time. He's wonderful. He's here. John Mahoney, everybody.
Hello.
Hi, John.
The John Mahoney.
The only John Mahoney.
Yeah.
At this point, kinda.
Oh, shit.
That's too much?
You've won the John Mahoney off.
Yeah, congrats.
John, do you get a lot of jokes? Because I feel like I probably give it the most because of how much I watch Frasier.
Yeah, I definitely do. It definitely happens less these days, but most of the time people ask me where my favorite chair is, or they'll make references to the dog whose name I never actually know, so it always takes me a really long time to be like,
who's Eddie?
Yeah. Right, exactly.
I love that. I wish we had a Frasier podcast, but we don't. We're here to talk about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. John, tell us a little bit about your Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. history. Were you watching it as it aired? Did you watch the whole thing?
I definitely did watch it early on as it was airing, which, like, going back to this and rewatching this episode was like, oh right, I forgot about like how exciting it was that like it evolved with the movies. You know, it was like, oh, I saw that movie and that thing happened, and they're responding. So yeah, I definitely watched the first couple seasons, and then I think I fell off maybe about halfway, 3/4 of the way through. I forget exactly, but definitely rewatching this episode was like, oh, I should probably go back and revisit this.
Yes, and that way you can be on our show later
Yes.
when you can come back. That's because we get that a lot with guests, that they've seen the earlier seasons but not the whole thing.
Yeah.
Are you still keeping up with Marvel?
Yeah, I do. However, I have less the urge to immediately run out and see it the way that I used to. However, I will still definitely be like, oop, a new one came out. I'm going to see that at some point.
That's great. I think we're on a slight delay. So you were going to say something. Do you remember what it was? Just now.
No. Great.
All right, moving on.
Yeah.
Shout out to everyone who's joining live in the chat. We love to see you. And I want to thank everybody for the really nice responses we got to last week's episode with Craig Titley. People already want him back, so hopefully we can get him back soon. I want to shout out Ryan on Twitter, who's been catching up on the pod, and Kirsty on Insta, who sent us a really nice message this week. That was really sweet. Also, we are now on Blue Sky. Blue Sky seems to be the place to be. I cannot imagine still using Twitter after January 20th. So if you get your Lido updates from Twitter, follow us on Blue Sky at LidoPod. Tony, tell the chat the rules.
Oh, yeah, we got rules, guys. So if you're going to say anything spoilery, please just tag your comment with spoiler alert. That way it doesn't spoil it for anybody like me who's potentially watching this show for the very first time. If you do spoil something without using spoiler alert, our producer Maria will find you and stab you with a knife that she made herself.
Well, today I made a very long, pointy thing, so I can stab them with that. Just a nice sabering.
Yeah, slow, miserable, bloody death. Yes, thank you.
A very
Thank you,
long, pointy thing. I love it. So today we were talking about The Things We Bury, which was written by DJ Doyle, who previously wrote Nothing Personal and Shadows and Heavy is the Head. The episode was directed by Milan Shalov, who directed The Asset and Providence. Today is his third and final episode of the series. We've got our main cast back, a lot of returning guest stars, including Haley Atwell as Peggy Carter. We'll get more into it, but John, were you surprised to see her in this episode?
Yeah. Well, first off, it's again one of those things of like, oh right, all of these things were happening like sequentially with each other, and they just like intermingled them. So it was like, oh right, they did actually bring Agent Carter into this world every so often just to drop you little kernels and keep you kind of following all the breadcrumbs.
It's exciting. Let's see. Someone in the DJ, I said DJ Doyle wrote this one. Yeah, I did. I said DJ Doyle. All right. So we also got Deachin Lockman in here, who we learn at the end is Sky's dead mom. Tony, did you recognize Deachin? Do you know her face?
I did recognize her, but I do not know what I know her from. Will you tell me?
Yeah, she was recently in Jurassic World Dominion. She was at the end scene in The Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. She's also on Severance right now, which is you haven't watched yet, but we will get to that. She's in like a lot of TV stuff too that I don't think you would know, but you've seen her in movies for sure.
Cool. Yeah, I'm excited to talk about Sky being Asian. That's quite a development.
Chloe Bennett is. Yeah, Chloe Bennett. Yeah.
I'm glad we're getting this out of the way because I was like, whoa, what the fuck? I had no idea that Chloe Bennett was remotely ethnic, but now I know.
Chloe Bennett is her real name is actually Chloe Wang, and her dad is Chinese.
Crazy, amazing.
Yeah.
Right,
Listeners, this means Tony has never seen the music video. We'll have to record. We'll have to watch that. She had a little bit of a music career overseas before this. We will definitely make you watch that.
Okay.
But yes, Chloe Bennett is half Chinese. But back to Deachin Lockman. Her husband is Maximilian Ozinski. I always say his last name wrong. Who we already saw briefly in season 1. Agent Davis. So that's a fun real life fact. Anyway, in this episode, Coulson and Hydra are in a race to find the mysterious city that holds the secret of the Diviner. What? John, what do you think of this episode? How did you feel when you were watching it?
Honestly, very enjoyable. First off, having like a evil Nazi Hydra scientist always makes for like very entertaining villains. So like right off the bat, it's like, okay, yep, that's a bad guy that I'm interested. And then I love that you actually get the little like backstory of him being like in the prison and then getting busted out after Winter Soldier and then creepily de-aging himself by murder.
By murder. Tony, what do you think of this episode?
Yeah, seconded on the evil Nazis. One of my favorite lines of the whole episode was in the very beginning, they were doing the diviner experiments on these poor Chinese villagers, and it kills a guy, and the Nazi says, "It's as though gender and race isn't a factor." I'm like, you nailed it! How did it take you so long to get there? So that was good, but I did enjoy this episode, especially as it was getting into the climax of the episode. I just don't give a fuck about Ward and the well, and they had a whole, like we already did, like this, what is the well? I'm like, what happened at the well? I'm like, I don't care, but I'm sure you'll tell me. Let's do this.
Yeah. I really like this episode because it just like last week, it feels like we're building towards something, and it's fun to like, obviously I know what's coming, but looking back on it and trying to view it as a first time watcher, like it's like so many peels are coming off, and like I just love Kyle so much as this crazy dad doctor, as I write him in my notes, because I don't think we've gotten his real first name yet. I accidentally was writing his name, and I went back and like erased them all so I wouldn't accidentally say them in front of you. But I just, it's fun to learn like these little bits about who Sky is, and you're like, oh, that's fucked up that happened. That's like,
yeah, it
like
is. I would
crazy.
agree with you on that. Actually,
That's
yeah,
like
it is
super fucked up.
that
And
her
now
mom
you,
got mutilated by Nazi doctors.
yeah. And now you kind of get why Dad's kooky. He's
I wonder. You know, it was so funny when she showed up in the beginning. What's the actress's name again? Tell me again.
Deachin Lockman.
Deachin Lockman. When she was there, I was like, huh, what is this going to be, Sky's mom? But the only reason I said it with a scoff was because I didn't know Coy Bennett was Asian. So if I had known that fact, I would have said that confidently. So yeah, now we got it.
We're in it. So the episode opens Austria 1945. We got Whitehall and the obelisk. You laughed, Tony, and I wrote, why did Tony laugh? And was that what you were laughing at?
It was the gender and race aren't a factor comment. Oh. Cool, good Naziing, guys.
Mm-hmm. So we've now seen when Deachin, Sky's mom, picked it up at Glowed, when Raina picked it up at Glowed. What do you think's going on here?
They kind of described it that it's, you know, divining. It's choosing, you know, who. I don't know if that's because these people have a genealogical makeup that is conducive to the diviner, or if it is, as they implied, selective based on a person's moral fiber, like Mjolnir. You know, I couldn't really say. I am seeing here in my notes, though, there was another Whitehall thing that made me laugh, and it was when the guy came in, it was like, the Red Skull is dead, and he was like, ugh. He was just so mildly miffed about his great Hydra leader being dead, and he said something like, a great man, his legacy. Anyway, back to work.
John, coming back, I'm guessing you have not watched this episode since it aired, right?
Probably not, no.
Do you did you kind of remember what was going on in terms of like the Whitehall stuff and everything?
So yes, and I will say I definitely do remember the well scene. I also remember not liking it when I saw it the first time. So Tony, when you said that you didn't like it, I was like, cool, we had the same kind of experience there. But like, it is interesting because one, there's like way more agents than I remember. Like the two that ended up doing it in the car, I was like, I totally forgot that they were characters in this show. But overall, I did recall most of it. It's just like piecing together, like, oh right, that I remember that guy. The guy, okay, he's the dad, and the dad. What was the? Oh, yep. Yeah, it's also just so crazy because since these seasons are so long, there is so much information that actually happens. Like when you have 20 plus episode seasons, it's like, yeah, they got to tackle like a lot of information across that.
Yeah.
Yep, we love network TV. So okay, one cool thing about this opening before we move on is when we cut to present day and Dr. Dad says calling it a weapon is small-minded. It's a key to unlock true power. And I like when he's like, it does something much, much cooler. I think that's a really fun tease.
But I believe he says scientifically.
Yeah, scientifically, right. Yeah, scientifically speaking, it's much, much cooler.
Oh, we got Coulson like handing out tasks in Hawaii. Seems like Coulson's been around Hawaii. He knows all the street names.
He does. That was cute.
And then we also have Bobby is interrogating Bakshi. There's just like, she's getting under his skin by like calling Whitehall boring, which I think that's like, oh, I'm gonna get you good by calling your boss boring.
yeah, she's like, well, trying to appeal to his or dash his ego, and it's working. It's working pretty well, but like she said, she didn't think she would prompt him to suicide by way of arguing. That was surprise. I was surprised to see Bakshi leave the picture
or attempt to.
He killed himself, right?
No, he's alive in the end. He's in a hospital bed.
Oh,
They,
Well, you're
they
getting
did
ahead of
say
yourself.
like, oh, no, you won't.
Oh, okay.
Like,
Yeah. Well, I would.
some kind of cure.
Okay. I thought Bocce was just fucking dead, but I guess I missed a moment. I must have been taking a note or something.
Yep, you missed it. He's alive.
Okay.
We also have what I think is an interesting kind of small thing going on is Mac is really upset about what happened with Coulson last week. Like the guy was violent. John, if you don't remember, this is when Coulson was like still carving, and so he got a little crazy there for a minute. But I don't know. I think it's good to have a new person come in and check Coulson, but I feel like Mac's a little too harsh. What do you think, John?
But I don't really remember the violent aspect of it, like, but at the same time, like Coulson shot like 4 to 6 people rapidly in this episode, which I imagine you'd see in most episodes. So, like, part of it just kind of seems irrelevant unless it was specifically like, he threw Simmons to the ground, and it's like, no, not Simmons.
Yeah, he kind of did go a little haywire on the team. He trapped them so that he could go and pursue this lead alone because he was ultimately correct in his pursuit, but he did mistreat his team in the process. I think that I don't want this Mac is worried about Coulson thing to take too much shape personally, because this previous episode Coulson finally kind of found peace with the carving and solved the mystery, and now it's like he no longer has the compulsion. So it's like, good, we're out of the weeds on that. And for there to be a subplot of Mac mistrusting him because of that, at this point I would find slightly annoying. So I hope it's not too much.
We have differing opinions in the comments. Defrosted Robot thinks that Mac is just quick to judge others, while Teth thinks that his response was understandable because objectively Coulson is being wildly irresponsible. I'm kind of in the middle. Mac's new. He doesn't really he's walking into some crazy shit. I do think though he was a little quick to judge Gemma. But that's
Yeah. Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah. And so then we get this. I love this, even though I hate the Ward stuff. I love when we get like a glimpse into Senator Ward where he's like, "Okay, darling, I'll be working late. Bye." "Oh, hi, mistress. What's your sexy lingerie?" Boom! Right through the window. Like, fuck that guy. I really like that moment. John, what was going through your head? Because I just think it's so fucking funny.
I really just saw that as like, this is the way ABC gets away with like murdering someone very casually in a like disturbing way of like, well, he's like abusing his power and he's cheating on his wife, and we're just gonna like have him be tortured in a well, but he kind of deserves it. Although honestly, I'm still when I first watched this episode and rewatching it, I still feel the same way of like, I don't really know that he actually was like the murderer that he admitted to the murder of. Like, I really just feel like Ward is just kind of a douche and forces his hand in that.
We're going to talk about that later. We're going to discuss what is the truth when it comes to the Ward family. Tenth in the comments wants to know why we all hate Ward. And I'll tell you, or like,
look at his track record.
Well, not hate Ward. I'm sorry. Hate the Ward stuff. Hate the Ward scenes. And for me, it's just like, I'm just sick of The Well. The Well is one of my least favorite episodes of season 1. And it's like, we're still talking about The Well.
Yeah, well, because when you get to the truth of The Well, it's, okay, so let's say, I know we're going to talk more about it, but let's say you get to the truth, bang. Ward's still a dick. Like, there's no, which Ward is worse than the other Ward is not interesting to me. I am interested in what Ward is doing in this episode and what he's going to continue to do, because he's kind of playing his own game and operating his own con. So I am enjoying the mystery of and the methods of what he's actually doing. But I'm with you in just that I'm sick of The Well, and they're treating it like it's this. They're treating it like it's the 084 level mystery around it, and it's just not that cool.
Speaking of 084, I like when Gemma nerds out over the original 084 report signed by Becky Carter.
Yeah, that was great.
That British solidarity.
Mm-hmm.
John, this is a good moment to ask you. Do you have a favorite character?
I mean, it's probably Coulson just because like he's obviously like the through line of like movies to the show and such like an like important instrument of the show. But I will say, just like Fitz and Simmons together as like a little cute little duo, I've always been just like, oh, they're just the best. So I will say that they are a combo, close second.
That's a totally valid answer. They have a single together name, so I think that counts. We get the Peggy flashback at the SSR base in 1945. She's interrogating Whitehall. Then there's a discussion about a myth about blue angels, visitors who come to conquer, and that's when Dad in present day is like, end, not conquer. And that's what we were kind of talking about earlier. The diviner decides who lives and who dies. And then another important thing that Dad says is, I'm not management material. He just wants to be reunited in the afterlife, which is an alarming thing. What did you feel about all that, Tony?
Yeah, it was a strange remark. But we know shortly thereafter that his goal is he doesn't just want to kill Coulson, he wants to kill Whitehall too. So I don't necessarily believe that that's his ultimatum. So I'm not sure. Kyle MacLachlan's amazing in this show, and I really don't care what he's up to. He's just eating.
Fair. John, did you have any specific thoughts about this? You kind of talked already about the connections and everything with Peggy, but anything else you wanted to add for this little section?
One, I just love the time lapse of him in prison. I really just thought that shot was really like well done, where you see like the books getting added and like truly just like great shots, great editing with that little like montage that lets you know exactly what's going on in a beautiful way.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
And it is kind of like fucked up to think about, like, we're living in a time where like pretty much the original, we got a new wave of Nazis, but the original Nazis are pretty much dead now. And the idea that like, oh, this Nazi is so fucking old, he's not a danger anymore. But an important thing is that it was Alexander Pierce that let him out. And Pierce, of course, is Robert Redford in The Winter Soldier. Like, he wasn't just let out because he was old. Pierce clearly had plans for this man.
Yeah, I like that reveal a lot. This has got more overlap with the MCU than any episode we've had in a while. A lot of name dropping, a lot of things lining up. It's cool.
Since we're talking about Kyle, John, are you a Twin Peaks fan?
No, I was like, my friends tried to get me to watch it in like high school, and I watched like 2 episodes and was like, I don't get it, and I really need to give it a second chance. But I only know that there's like a weird log lady, and it's very confusing.
You're an adult now. You're a man. I think you'll appreciate it.
Yes, my early efforts in getting into Lynch were also ineffectual, and so it took some aging for it to really work for me.
This has been my Twin Peaks plug. Thank you for coming.
It's gonna happen again.
Yeah. So then we've got this like Ward dragging Ward. What I do like about this dynamic is that they're both gaslighting psychopaths. Like when the brother's like, you're free because of me, like yeah, I only set 7 men on you, I did that on purpose, like and I get where Ward Prime, and I'll say Big Ward and Ward Prime, I get like why Ward Prime is saying, because I do believe that like the brother is like, first of all, he's a politician, he knows how to twist shit, but I do think the whole dynamic is interesting. I just like, why did it have to physically be at the well?
Yeah, well, he says that line, and it ultimately, I understood what he meant by it, but he goes, Mom and Dad buried the well. He goes, no, they just covered it up. I'm like, isn't that the same fucking thing? And then I'm like, oh, okay, all right, I understand. There's a wooden thing on it. You pull it off and you can get in there. I get it. But I was still just like, so just so over it. Like, the well is not great.
Drink every time we say the well.
No.
We also have meanwhile, Coulson has Fitz practicing, which is to get in, and Fitz is wondering, is this just busy work? For the I wrote it down somewhere in my notes, but it's not in front of me because I think we mixed up a little bit. But did you catch Tony, the Audrey name drop when Coulson said that I think it was a tie or a shirt was a gift from her? Did you catch that?
Yes. The cellist, of course.
Yes.
Yeah. I knew immediately who that was, and it made me want to watch Angel again.
Yes. Did you catch that, John, that he was talking about the cellist?
I didn't catch it on this watch, but it may have been more recognizable the first time.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure you would have. We talked about all the prison stuff. Then we get to Austria 1989. We got Deachin back. She got captured by this motherfucker a second time. Can you imagine, 40 plus years after you were tortured, and then he's like, I'm back, gonna get you again.
Truly
that's
depressing.
Horrifying.
Yeah, it's depressing, and then the plain ugliness of all the surgical stuff following it, like the dismembering of her, it's pretty fucking heavy, man. It made me really sad, but I had a question. Is Reyna gonna be immortal-ish because she touched the diviner and was okay? You can't answer that, can you?
That's a really good question, Tony. I can't wait for you to find out.
Okay, thanks.
Oh God. All right. So then we kind of get the big showdown between the team and Hydra. Did you, John? A fun thing that Tony likes to laugh at is whenever someone says an EMP, they explain what an EMP is, but they didn't really in this one. No. They didn't explain it.
No, I want a montage, like a montage of anytime someone in a movie or show goes EMP, electromagnetic pulse. It just gets me. It hits my funny bone.
So there's this whole ambush, and then Trip gets shot. I love this scene. I love the scene with the doctor. Tony, were you worried about Trip?
I knew he was going to get shot. I don't know I don't know how. I don't know. Just intuiting the drama of the show. When we entered that whole scene, I was like, I think Trip was going to get shot today, and he sure did. I don't know why I felt it coming, but I did.
John, what do you think of this scene? Because I think this scene is awesome. There's so many layers to this scene that makes it just good TV.
I think it's like action packed, right? Like you have this big shootout. You're also on the time limit for Fitz to go and plug in the plugs and the things. And I will say I found it very funny because he had this strict time limit to do this very sensitive, very technical thing. And he's immediately jumping between that and some kind of open heart surgery type bullet retrieval thing. The way he's just oh yes, and let me put on my IT hat, and now IT hat's done, let me put on my medical professional hat and open up a syringe or what have you. I thought was one, I thought it was kind of funny, but also it shows the character's actually very much a field agent that can actually handle the pressures and what comes along with it. But then also I just love the way that the dad ends up coming in and then just totally seizes the opportunity to turn it into a negotiation where he's oh, I can help, it's fine, let me just cut on the human pieces. And really just I thought it was very sinister, I guess, in many ways, and just such a good villain moment with someone that you don't fully know as a villain or not, but clearly this is just they're twisting that knife a little bit.
I love Kyle in this scene so much because he slices Trip's brachial artery, but he's still gonna save him. And the line where he's Sky's not here, is she? Only get one chance to make a first impression. Like, I like that he's crazy and scary, but he's got that like Leave It to Beaver dad energy as well, which is just a great combo.
Yeah, he's a very, very, very amusing kind of evil, and I'm enjoying it very much. I like when he said, "That's okay, I got it, Phil." Phil shouldn't have said Phil. Like, he's just eating it up. I don't know how much McLaughlin we're going to get. I hope he's got long legs that stride across this season at least. But, oh, God, he's such a good actor.
And then, of course, we get him saying again, "That's not her name."
Ooh, he's mad.
What does it mean? We'll find out. Maybe, maybe not. But first, we're going to take a quick 30-second break. So fill up your drinks, go to the bathroom, do what you got to do, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Love in the Time of Hydra. We are talking the things we bury with our friend John Mahoney. All right, Fitz did it. He did it under 6 minutes. Trip is not dead. And then we get up more in this Whitehall torture.
Trip, who did not die.
He's cutting her open, taking those organs. Like I think he just transplanted all of her organs into his own. Is that what we think happened?
I don't know, John. What do you think? I didn't understand. He's consumed her. How do you think he got the power?
I mean, I will just say, like, it is actually surprisingly like a graphic scene when they are like cutting her apart, and it's a little shocking, especially for something that was on like network television. But I definitely just thought of it as like they took her like liver and then ground it up into some kind of juicer and then drank the juice is more or less like
your point of view is that it's
like like a birth type of a thing. I kind of think it's that type situation.
He had himself a lady shake. That's absolutely dreadful.
That's horrible. I just assumed that he like transplanted her organs into his own body. But I don't know. Does anyone in the comments know if he drank a lady smoothie or if he did some surgeries? Let us know.
God damn it.
And then we find out that Ward made his brother murder suicide. His parents are like, that's what he made it look like. And this is when we will let's get down to it. John, I'll ask you first. Do you think that Senator Ward, Big Ward, did actually do the things he admitted to?
Honestly, no. I like kind of don't. I feel like Ward Prime, as you put it, didn't really get any resolution. Like there was no, and I think that's like my biggest problem with that whole like interaction is it's very much this drama about like admit it, and then like I still walk away as an audience member being like, I don't really believe it, and it didn't really seem like he had any big like revelation. It just seemed like another chess piece for him to kind of use on his next job interview, which is just kind of like jacked up, but I didn't really get anything from the character themselves. So frankly, I think Ward Prime did all of it and is just the worst.
Okay, Tony, what do you think?
I pretty much agree with John on this. The scene did conclude with that confession from Big Ward, and I believed it. I believed like, okay, Ward did extract the truth. He had to go to the brink, the very bleeding edge, to get the truth out of his brother. He did it for a recording for his next job interview, as John said. So the thing is, it doesn't matter. Like I'm not over here looking for ways to see that Ward isn't as evil as we've been told. I know that Ward isn't evil. I don't have a problem. I don't need us to try and like morally tidy up that character. They're good. They're doing interesting stuff with him. I like this weird tightrope he's walking by like throwing Shield a bone, infiltrating the head of Hydra at present. Like, this is all interesting stuff. I do not need to clear his name in any way at all. I don't want to like him. What do you think, Jamie?
I think that Big Ward absolutely did those things. I think that he absolutely got Little Ward, Little Ward's the Little Ward. I think he got Ward Prime to beat on Little Ward. But here's the thing, that Ward Prime is still guilty. He still tortured his little brother. Whether or not his big brother pushed him into it, like, I'm sorry, you're still a Nazi, even Hitler's telling you what to do. Like, you can't just blame your brother. But I do think that Big Ward did push him into that. I 100% believe that his confession was a real confession and not just a breakdown because he's under torture. That's and I don't think that Ward is innocent. I think that they're like gaslighting kings of like, they're so good at being like, it's not my fault. And of course it's still his fault, but I really do believe that his brother is a bad, evil person just like he is.
Yep.
And then we have some people in the comments disagreeing because they say because they were kids, that means that, but they were all kids. I don't know. I'm saying maybe the big brother's at most fault, but I just don't think Ward Prime is innocent.
I think all kids up to a certain age are sociopathic. I remember being a little kid pulling the legs off of spiders because I was interested to see what it would do. Right. I knew that was like an impulse I had. I wasn't thinking about a thing being alive or caring how it felt. That being said, I never tortured my family members or animals larger than insects. So
I also think it's worth noting that clearly the parents were monsters and they created monsters and they probably deserved to die in that murder-suicide. That was really just a triple murder, I'm sure.
But as you said, Ward, this does not vindicate Ward Prime in any way.
Yeah. And then I wrote in my notes, Bakshi in bed, which Tony clearly missed. He thought the man died.
I thought Bakshi was fucking dead. I must have been writing in my notebook when they showed him.
He's alive. And then we get this good Bobby Hunter scene, which is like, he can't trust her because she's a spy. And she's like, you're the one person I don't spy to. And they just can't solve it, but they fucked anyway. I think they're so hot. John, did you remember that they were ex-spouses?
No. Although, again, I was totally like, oh, did I ever see these characters? Oh, no, they do kind of seem familiar, but I'd clearly, like, in my mind over the years, just meshed them in with the other characters. And, yeah, I mean, well, you always just need to see someone take their shirt off and then invite someone into a SUV for, a little exercise. PT.
Fucking TV, baby.
Yeah. Tony, how do you feel about Bobby and Hunter? Just check in since they're pretty new.
They're hot. I think their dynamic is well written. I said it in the first time we saw those characters together. I like that he's a mess and she's nonplussed. And as you mentioned, Jamie, you don't really get to see that kind of relationship in TV, like exes in that capacity. So, no, I'm enjoying them very much.
Nice. Then we get Coulson walks in covered in blood. Tony literally goes, "Damn, Coulson! Like, you couldn't change your shirt."
Yes. Yeah. No. Now I'm reminded of that time. What's his name?
There's a lot of hymns.
Yeah. The British guy who we were just talking about, Bobby
Hunter.
and Hunter. When Hunter in his first episode, like, got into this bloody crash, and fucking Xena the Warrior Princess died, and he's a mess. So, like, there's literally like 4 or 5 scenes after that where he's in different locations, still in blood-covered clothes, and I'm like, dude, change your shirt. Like, you've had so many chances to change your shirt. We know it was bloody. This is different though. Coulson's coming fresh from a really intense, bloody scene of trying to save a guy's life. So no, it shocked me. He walked in and he just like, Coulson looked like he'd been through it. It's a good look for him. Coulson looking rough.
John, did you say anything out loud to the TV like Tony likes to do?
I didn't, but I will say, like, at first I was like, oh, I mean, he did just shoot a bunch of people, but then I was like, no, most of that blood must have been from like saving him. And then the end, I was like, I actually think he was probably just like wiping his sides off a whole bunch to like clean his hands to actually
Right.
get, because I didn't see much blood on the actual vest itself. However, the like pieces of shirt that shine through got all of the blood. So I do think it might have just been a cleanliness thing.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
By the way,
Blood's hard to get off.
Yeah, you don't want to see that walking into your face. That's a lot. So okay, we get the end tag, which is Dr. Dad, Whitehall, and Ward now. Ward's up in there. I guess he's back to Hydra, doesn't know anything else. And this is where we learn that we see a baby Kyle. And I gotta say, for 10 years ago, pretty good de-age work. John, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I mean, do you know, did they do anything digital or was it all makeup? I mean, they did a good job of making him look significantly younger for the flashback.
Definitely digital.
Yeah. Tony, you kind of had like response.
I said, yeah, well, baby McLaughlin, and he looked, he looked good. It was like, I guess, where would we be? Kind of, I mean, it would roughly be Twin Peaks.
89.
Age
It would have been
89.
Like
so, yeah, no, I thought it was. Obviously, they only did it for like 2 shots, because that's a significant expense, and it's not as refined as we would get in later stuff like Captain Marvel in terms of de-aging. But for low light 2 shots, it looked really strong, and I was happy to see that level of work going into a stinger like that.
Mm-hmm. And you were not like, you were like half surprised that it was Sky's mom.
I was, yeah, because I'm sorry, Chloe, and I thought you were white.
Have you not seen ads for her new show that comes out this week, which is called Interior Chinatown?
No.
Yeah, I think it comes on Hulu this week. I've talked to a friend, an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fan, who's seen screeners of the whole show and said it was really good. So keep out. Chloe's coming back to your TVs, everybody.
Okay, we can Patreon that or something.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Before we talk about the history of this episode, John, was there anything else specific from the episode that you wanted to mention or talk about that we haven't covered?
No, just that it's funny because this episode came out like right after like Guardians, right? And so I just think it's very interesting that they were just like, well, we brought the Kree in, so we got to make everything about the Kree again. I mean, I do think, like, obviously they play a big role throughout, but part of me does just feel like they just had, like, well, we've got one alien race, and we've got to use them across the board. People can't understand too many aliens.
We're still like Blue Angels. We did see at the end of season 1 the body, the Kree body.
Yeah. I've been like 99% sure this entire time that it was a Kree, even though we haven't said it yet, right?
Well, we know that the GH325 is like part of the Kree blood. We do know that. But
nobody said Kree yet.
I don't know, honestly, because we saw it. I think we knew it was. Yeah. But we don't know what that if it has anything to do with the Diviner. We just don't know. I decided I'm springing a new segment on us today. Participate in the chat, everybody. I want to pick a episode MVP. Yeah. Tony, would you like to go first and give us your episode MVP?
Kyle MacLachlan.
Yeah, it's my answer too. Kyle. It's Kyle. John?
I think that I would agree with you. However, I will, just for the sake of saying something else, the guy that tried to commit suicide by bashing his cheek in, which also interesting place to put poison.
I thought that too. Thank you, John. Yes, Bakshi. Yeah, we'll give a honorable mention to Bakshi.
Yeah, Simon. Shout out to Simon. Maria, do you have an MVP for this episode?
Honestly, I think Coulson.
Oh,
ooh! I love to hear it. Why
right.
Coulson? What did he do in this episode that would make you pick him?
That meeting between him and Kyle was just like so intense, and you could really feel all of the like love and relationship building that Coulson has gone through with Sky in it. I think he just crushed it.
Very well said. I agree with you. Still, my answer is still Kyle, but honestly, it's the same scene. It's the best scene in the show. Like for me, it's one of those two guys.
We got a lot of Kyles in the chat for their answer. We got an honorable mention for Brett Dalton for Ward. Alice wants to shout out Simmons for happens to be British. That was a great line. I do. This is a new segment that I've invented that we might keep doing or might not. But I like that it gets the chat going. So that makes me happy. A little history. Marissa Tancherone, the showrunner, of course, was asked outright if Big Ward did the things. And she was like, these are questions we hope the audience would ask. And just was basically like, so who do you choose to believe? So they basically wouldn't give an answer. So it's remaining a mystery.
Yeah, look at John's smug ass over here.
Ward Prime.
Another fun fact, the Hydra sleeper agent who releases Whitehall from the Rat, which is like, I love that name for a base or a prison. That was Lou Ferrigno Jr.
Fuck off. Wow. He's much smaller than his brother or father.
His father, yeah. Son of the Hulk right there.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That was something that I learned. I love when I learn things about the show. It's so cool. Also, Tony, did you clock this when Bobby said to Bakshi that he's got that whole classic Bond villain thing going on? Simon Cassianettes was in Quantum of Solace.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And let me tell you, listeners, Tony and I watched Quantum of Solace very recently, and I couldn't tell you who Simon played in that movie.
I think I've seen that movie maybe 4 times because I bond a lot. Jamie and I have done bonding together, in terms of James Bond. And but that movie just does not stick in my brain, and because I don't like it. I don't think it's very good, and I'm watching it fresh every time, more or less.
John, have you seen Quantum of Solace? Did you clock this?
I don't actually recall that I have seen Quantum of Solace. Was that one of that was the Daniel Craig one, but was it the last one?
The second
one.
Yeah, I don't know. Was the second one? Yeah, clearly it didn't stick.
I used to be a defender of it, and then we watched it recently, and I was like, oh, I don't know what my problem was, because this really is not, it's the weakest of the Craigs for sure. But, this isn't a James Bond podcast, if only. Tony, before we kick you out, was there anything else you wanted to say?
No, I feel like I've expressed all my thoughts and feelings on this episode, so I'll do some thank yous to Stephanie at Eclectic Muses on socials for doing our artwork. Thank you to Ryan Mira of Yellow Pills at Yellow Pills Music on Instagram for doing our music. Thank you to our producer, Maria. Thank you, producer Maria.
You're welcome.
And thank you to John Mahoney. It's really nice talking to you, and thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And then before people leave, in case you're leaving with Tony, reminder to follow us at LitoPod on Instagram, Twitter, and Blue Sky. Like and subscribe on Spotify, YouTube, all those places. Leave us reviews, 5 stars, baby. We could use it. And next week is another Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. off week, I assume because 10 years ago it fell during Thanksgiving week. So we will be back on Patreon talking Firefly, episode 11, Trash. So stick around for that. If you've been following our Firefly journey, it's close to ending. And if you are watching along with Tony, get the heck out of here.
I gotta leave the room. We're leaving the room.
He's gone. Okay, so a few things that we have to talk about is the afterlife line. I wanted that to stick in Tony's memory, which is why I brought it up. But obviously, I don't know if you remember, afterlife is the name of where all the Inhumans live. That's where Sky's mom runs. Did you remember that?
I didn't remember. It's like I remember the that there was the city. I didn't remember its name specifically, but I like recalled like, oh yeah, they're getting closer to like the whole like inhuman transformation piece, which is honestly when I thought the show got a lot more fun and interesting, or at least specifically for Sky. I thought Sky like starting from around this episode and like leading up to this part, I just thought she just got a lot deeper as a character. At the beginning, I was just like, okay, computers, computers, computers. And I feel like we actually get to see like character transformation, and superpowers are always fun.
Yeah. We've 2 episodes is what we become, and that's just such a big one. It's such a turning point for the show, and we are so close to not having to say Sky anymore. I just cannot wait till I can stop saying Sky because it's so hard. I want to shout out Snowbat in the comments because we both wore Lydia Dietz shirts today, and I think that's cute. I also Jeremy is our go-to collector. He has so many amazing props, and he is on the hunt for a diviner. So if anyone knows where Jeremy could get that prop at an auction, or if we want to do some kind of heist for him, message us and we will relay that information to Jeremy. Craig said he was going to start listening, so maybe Craig knows. Also, a fun thing, if I'm not mistaken, I think I'm correct in here that Gemma in a couple episodes kills Bakshi. Like, Bakshi's still alive, but he's about to die. And if I'm not mistaken, it's because she tries to get Ward with a splinter bomb, but gets Bakshi instead. Do you remember this?
A splinter bomb? Not specifically. I do feel like I remember just a lot more of like the interviews of him as like a prisoner until he escapes, and I don't really recall after that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're confirming it. This is like kind of a double because Bakshi almost dies and doesn't, and same with Trip because Trip's going to die in 2 episodes, which is like that's his is the first kind of real big death of the show, and Tony is not going to see it coming.
The false start.
Mm-hmm. And then let's see what else. Oh, the whole Sky's mom of it all. I think it's going to be exciting when Tony learns that she's not really dead.
Yeah, I was kind of trying to remember that of like, because you see her totally get taken apart, but I was like, doesn't she end up like welcoming people to that city or something? Like, I definitely remember there being more of a part for her. And I couldn't remember if it was just like flashbacks or if it was episodes before this. Although clearly it doesn't really make sense that they would show her before this episode. It's very much an introductory piece.
This was her intro, and she ultimately ends up being the big bad of the season, which is really a fun little twist that I love. I really hope we can get her on the podcast. No promises, of course, but I'm definitely going to try because I just think she's so talented, and we got to get her before the Severance. She's going to be really busy soon because Severance is coming back, so we got to try to snag her before that. Anything else that you recall from the series that you can or want to talk about now that Tony's gone?
I mean, honestly, I just really appreciate the show for what it was in terms of creating like the more cohesive world where like fans got to actually just see things develop in between, especially when we knew like, you know, that they're going to be working on like an Inhuman show at some point, and then you're like, oh, I see like why they're doing that, you know, even though that show was not the best, but like in general, Marvel just did such a great job of like keeping everyone so excited and like together, and it's very interesting because you felt more like a piece of the whole puzzle because you got to watch the individual things and like take the ride with all of them. So like, I really will just say that was such a fun aspect of it. And I am kind of curious, does rewatching it diminish any of that because you're not having those same like real-time experiences?
No, it's always exciting. Like this episode, I'd forgotten how much like Red Skull references there were. We talk about this a lot, but the end of season 5 is kind of where it veers off and stops doing that. The last 2 seasons are kind of in its own space. There's a lot of debate whether or not is in the sacred timeline or not canon or whatever, and it is genuinely so exhausting. Shout out to everybody who listened to my other podcast, Phase Heroes, interview with Brad Winderbaum this week. I know some people were disappointed that I didn't ask him about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and it is because I just already know that he doesn't have an answer yet. But I think he will have an answer. So I think that an answer's coming, but it's not ready, if that makes sense.
I mean, yeah, there's over a million projects that they're working on and trying to interweave. So
it's a whole map. But speaking of Phase Hero, if you've been listening, BD, my co-host BD, has an interview dropping Monday with James Gunn. So check that out. BD and I are also going to the Gladiator 2 premiere tomorrow. So keep an eye out. Follow us for those updates. Thank you so much to everyone in the chat. The chat was popping today. I really love how much you guys are talking. I love when you don't agree with me because you're nice about it, which is really nice. We're allowed to have different opinions and we're all respectful, and that makes me so happy. I love this fandom. I love you guys. We'll be back next Sunday, the 24th, to talk Firefly, and then Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. coverage returns on December 1st. I can't believe it's almost December. Thank you, John. Thank you so much. You are amazing, and I love you.
Thank you.